Hi everyone. So today I want to talk about the preferential processing and FTA modules for SAP GTS. And so before we begin on that, just a couple of things. So the SAP will allow you to load any rule of origin from any free trade agreement that's available, load it into the system, and basically run your preferential determination of any part where the BOM, the bill of material, is complete and has all the relevant data. Much like, say, the classification module, if the data is there, it's able to run it with no problem whatsoever. Okay? And just like the classification module, you have to set it up and load it from the back end, from the SPRO, and then from the front end, you're supposed to do a couple more things that I'll show you right now. And when that happens, you'll be able to run, the preferential determination of a product, of a bill of material, and also, for example, maintain certificate of origins, LTVDs, long-term vendor declarations, and things like that along those lines that will allow you to successfully run a preferential determination. Okay? So the first thing is, once you go into the SAP Global Trade Services menu, you want to go into preferential processing and master data. So let's say that we have basically from the back end, from SPRO, set up the entire system for NAFTA. It's ready to go, and all we need to do now from the front end, from the user perspective, is actually load the data. Load the rules of origin. So when you go into the master data, you're going to see here several menus, custom products and maintained products. From a preferential determination point of view, it's very much similar to the product master, but this one directly puts you into the basically preferential tab and the LTVD tab. I'll show you that later as well. But even before we go into the maintained products, here is where we want to focus right now. So much like classification, you upload the rules of origin from an XML file. So you go ahead here. So our data provider in this case is a cart. And much like the case, there is no new rule of origin right now, but you find your rule of origin, you load it, and first of all, you do a simulation mode. It should show you exactly what you're looking for, and then you load it without the simulation mode. Again, we just did a huge load, so there's nothing right now to be loaded, but this is where you begin. And much like any other like legal regulation or an SPL menu, you'll have the green marks and the red marks and the yellow marks. Once you load it correctly in simulation mode, you'll have everything green, you save it, and it's good to go. Okay? And just to show you, once it's loaded, here you have display rules of an agreement. You launch this code and say, let's go with this one. We're looking for the free trade agreement for NAFTA. It'll run it. And here it'll tell you, the country group, what type of rule it is, if it's active, this green mark right here. And here we have the actual specific rule of origin. Now, this isn't telling you much of how the rule of origin itself works, so you just have to dig a little deeper. You go ahead and click the glasses, and here we have the specific details of the rules of origin. Now, this might look complicated, but it tells you if it's an AND operation or an OR operation, what are the requirements. Actually, this one's pretty complex, so probably not a good example to start off. But basically, this shows you how the system is reading the rule of origin that you've loaded from the XML file. Okay? So in any conditions, the subheadings, anything along those lines that you basically, when you open the book, when you open the NAFTA rules of origin, it's loaded here, right? And all these green tick marks is basically telling you that it's been that data is loaded correctly. So let's see if we can find another one that's not as complex. 7201. If this one works. There we go. So if we go into this one, here we go. So it's basically saying the nano operation, so it's a shift from 7201 from any other chapter, because it's here we have the 2 chapter place. Okay, so that's your basic tariff shift. And so this also just tells you that how the system is reading it correctly. Okay. Now, once you've loaded these files, actually the rules of origin, unlike the classification files, they are one file per side. So you'll have a US, say, Colombia file, and then you'll have a Colombia US file. So you load both. Although, for example, in some cases, as is the case of Medtronic, which is my current client, they only need it from the US side. They don't need the Colombian side. So we only load one. You can load the other one, of course, but it'll just sit there. Okay? So once you've done that, you can go into risk management, preferential processing, and this is where the determination is made, and where you can check those COOs and the LTVDs and anything along those lines. So if you go into preferential processing, the first thing is you have your product. The products are coming from ECC into SAP, and you basically also, one thing that you have to also keep in mind is when you're sending these products from an ECC an ERP system, in this case the ECC system of SAP, you have to make sure that the bill of material is good, the procurement indicators are good, the price is good, because remember, this is trying to determine a rule of origin. So think of a rule of origin determination project from the core side, in which you have those giant Excel files with the lines and what product goes into what line of the product is, and the price, and you have to do it a little bit on the manual side, but you can definitely determine it with some Excel magic, quote unquote. But in this case, it's doing it automatically as long as all the data has been transferred and all the data from the ERP system is correct. So the data can be correct, but make sure that it's valid data, because it's going to do a determination with whatever you send it. It's not going to know if it's right or wrong. It's just going to read it as, say, all right, so the value of part A is 1,000, part B is 1. Is that correct? Yes. All right, well, this is going to be determination. Okay. So once you go here, you go into determine preferential status, and here, basically fixed bill of materials, perform determination. Click on it. In this case, we'll run it open because this is our own system. There's only about 18 products that we've done, and the module. This is part of the SPRO setup. However, I say most of the clients go with cross plant. Some of them do base plant, but that has to do more with configuration requirements. So I'm not going to go into the details of that. Just to let you know that, for example, our system is cross plant, so we go ahead and do that. No need for the plant group. Basically, all we can do is just make sure that it's simulation, and we go ahead and run it. Yes, 18 bombs. So this right here is telling us it's run the determination for all these products. Of course, you can go ahead and just pin down one product, be it 2057 or this GTS OPRK2. Now, if we go into 2007, this is going to be your basic preferential determination screen. Now, there's two tabs here. Always keep that in mind. Product and bill of material that basically tells you exactly what's going on in the determination. Now, for example, in this case, it did not qualify for NAFTA, but it did qualify for US-Korea, which is another one of our free trade agreements that we have loaded into the system. Here it says the HS number, the procurement indicator. And so if we go here, it's because this is only a tariff shift, it's basically saying that these items are not going to go in. Are not going to be correctly tariff shifted into the rule of origin. However, in the case of Korea, they do. Now, here you have a lot of the exact components, and it's telling you the commodity code, preferential eligibility, and so what plant, the feeder system, the plant group, the specific plant, and the component number. Now, when we look at the bill of material, here it's telling us a little bit more about what's going on. So for example, in this case, if we click here, that we only click on, we have here an icon when it's a RVC calculation, right? So right now here is where it's telling us that it's not eligible. Okay. Now we are able to change this, say for example, for one of these products. So component 25, 20, 58, 59, and 60, say we have this certificate of origin, we're able to load it in order to qualify it. But for now, it's reading it as these parts are not able to tariff shift correctly into 09, 08, 11. Now, a couple more things that you can do here. For example, say you have the agreement that you want to specifically run. You go ahead and open it. So in this case, say we were interested in Korea. They'll process the same bombs, and we can open it right now, and it won't have the U.S. NAFTA, agreement. So in this case, it's telling us that it's tariff shifting correctly. So let's keep in mind this 2057 and 2058, 59, and 60, which are the parts that are components of this product. Now, one of the things you can also do is when you go into the master data and you say maintain products, when you display the products, say we go into 2057. Here we have our product, we have the classification, In this case, it's 0908110000, which is what we saw there, 09110000. And when we go into the preference, it's here. It's telling us, well, for some reason, it's telling us that Korea, the cross plant, is not active. Okay. Okay, let's go and see the other products. It may be because I ran it in simulation mode and the changes were made after, so it has not run it correctly, so it probably is why. Okay. All right, and then if we go to 59, we can see that none of these have a preferential flag, an LTVD flag, so that's why it's basically saying to us it's not gonna qualify. Okay, it doesn't have the qualify. Right. There we go. Okay, so now what happens if you do have the certificate of origins? Now, in that case, you go back to preferential processing and you manage the vendor. This first menu that opens, manage vendor-based declarations, vendor-based vendor declarations, sorry. And here you have two menus, processing. So you want to run this one. LTV status, external number. You can run it wide open. And here you basically have, for example, all the products that we have loaded in our system right now and their current status with regards to LTVD. So for example, from this external business partner 603, this product doesn't qualify for neither North America or South or for NAFTA or the South Korea Free Trade Agreement. However, this product number has a flag here, so it's already been determined that it does qualify, it has an LTVD, and it's maintained. And it's good through these dates, and the data was requested. Okay, we have another product here, LTVD2 for NAFTA. L2167 for NAFTA is good to go, and in this case, this glass component as well is good to go. It's good satisfies rules of origin. Preferential flag can be not applicable, not eligible, A, B, or C, which is the case for NAFTA. Okay. Now, if we go into processing, we can go ahead and maintain the vendor declarations, although I believe that this is going to be empty. Yeah. System. Yeah, there's no vendor declarations. And the monitoring, the last one is display work list. Again, we can run this open. And here we have more information regarding the vendor declarations. Okay, so display product, relevant. Oh, no, that's not what I want to do. So for example, in this case, it'll take us directly to the product. It'll let us know what the preferential status is right now, the procurement indicators, the LTVD request relevance. Okay. Now, these will vary from client to client. So, some clients want to, for example, set up an alert that every month they'll request the LTVDs for the clients and all that. But this is where you're able to maintain all that information in order to successfully run the determination. Now I want to go back to, for example, the master data here. So we'll go to change and run, for example, preference here. All right, and so here, for example, we are able to change the preference. So say we want to do B, country of origin. We'll set it up as US. And preferential model patent groups. Oh, sorry, and the legal regulations for for NAFTA. So here, instead of having clicking on the continue, you click on copy data, and here we're determining that 2060 is NAFTA, is good for NAFTA. It has a preferential flag because we were able to change this. So we go ahead and save the product. Data successfully saved. We do the same for 59, which were the three products that we ran the first one. We go into preference, we create the same. We go ahead and save it. as US and as a preferential plant model. There we go. We save, and then 58. Go into preference, preferential flag, model here. All right. So now we go back into our preferential processing, determine preferential status. And in this case, because we know exactly what the product number is going to be, we go ahead and input it. We leave the agreement. We can go ahead and do NAFTA since it's not the one we're interested in. And we run it in simulation, of course. Oh, interesting. Even though it's telling us that the good satisfies, it is not. Okay. Well, I might have to investigate this further. Why is it not going green? But in theory, once you basically set the three main products of this bill of material into that are you determine that they're NAFTA eligible, you load it, you change it into product master, and you run it again, you should get the green mark there. Okay. Let me see if there's anything else. You can also request LTVDs here. This is from the customer side. I don't really want to touch on that right now. But yeah, these are the basics for the preferential determination. You know, the three things is you can have one, any free trade agreement that there's rules of origin, that the card can provide rules of origin, so you set it up and you load it. Two, it runs the preferential determination as per the information that you're passing in from your ERP system into SAP, and it will make the determination based on that. And three, even if the ERP system is bringing things that you know, for example, are US based, or sorry, are eligible for whatever free trade agreement that you're doing, you can go ahead and either request an LTVD or change the flag within the product master, or save an LTVD and a certificate of origin into the system that will allow you to basically qualify that product. Okay. All right. So that is it for preferential determination. All right. And